Hello and welcome. In the next few minutes, I am going to provide you with an overview of Stage 1 of the Understanding by Design or UbD template. UbD is a method of course design that focuses on the understandings that we want learners to arrive at so that they can transfer what they have learned and apply it to new situations. This design then works backward from our end goal to create a course design that supports, instructs, and informs those outcomes. Courses designed using UbD are grounded in industry recognized competencies and standards. Through the use of the UbD template, we can ensure that our activities, evaluations, and instruction are closely aligned with these competencies and standards. The UbD method is comprised of three stages. Stage 1, identify desired results. Stage 2, determine acceptable evidence. And Stage 3, plan learning experiences. For this preview, we will be focusing on Stage 1, identify desired results. The first section in the Stage 1 template is the course and unit summary. This section, while important, is largely self-explanatory with short answer demographic responses and radio button questions about what we will be covering, so I will not go into too much detail, but I will scroll through this section. One of the more important areas of this section is the unit overview. This is where we begin to get into more of the substance of Stage 1. In this section, we provide a brief overview of what our unit is going to cover. It is best to describe our units as simply as possible while letting our audience know what we are going to cover. This portion of the template is also where our big idea lives. The big idea can most easily be thought of as the moral of the story for our unit. We want our big idea to accurately capture what we are covering, but we want our big idea to pull everything that we will be covering together. This is not a simple fact that we are stating. This is an overarching theme of our unit. It could be something like a major theory or a key assumption. Our big idea should give our learners a North Star, per se, to tie their learning and thoughts to that will help them make sense of a lot of information. The next section will focus on professional organizations, standards, and competencies. We want our units to be relevant, current, and tied to identified best practices in the real world. We do not want to create units that sound great and have many great ideas, but are unrealistic or unable to be applied in the real world. To prevent this from happening, we should anchor our units in standards and competencies issued by professional organizations that are relevant to our topic. In this section, we will identify a professional organization that has standards and competencies related to our unit. We will list the organization's name, website, and link to the standards and competencies. In the standards and competencies section, this is where we will list those. For example, if we were presenting a unit that covered something in the area of fourth grade mathematics, we may want to consult the K-12 Common Core Standards. We should read through the standards and competencies and pull out the one or ones that most closely align with our unit. Remember, these are determined by the governing professional organization in our topic area. We would then list the standard or competency word for word in the standards and competencies section. And we would list the relevant standard number in the code section on the left-hand side. The code is very important because this is what we will reference in several other sections of the template. We will tie other sections of the template back to these standards to make sure that our unit aligns with these standards and that the content that we are including is relevant to these standards. These standards provide us as designers with yet another guidepost. Transfer is the next section in the UbD template. Transfer is one of the main goals of learning. As designers and trainers, we want our learners to be able to take what they have learned and be able to apply that learning to situations that may or may not look like the same context that they learned the material in. We want students to be able to do this independently without the guidance of the instructor. In this section, we will list what we want our learners to be able to do with their learning. What kind of context do we want them to be able to apply their learning in? How do we want our learners to use the information outside of our training? Are there specific contexts that we want them to be able to apply it in? What do we want transfer to look like for our learners? Once we have come up with several items in this section, we will then look back at our competencies and standards and select the competency or standard that the transfer is most closely related to. We will then list that standard in the code column on the right-hand side. Meaning happens when we can generalize what we are learning and be able to anticipate what this will mean for the future. We are creating meaning for ourselves of the information that we are taking in through the unit. Meaning is essential for understanding. Without the creation of meaning, we are unable to transfer our learning into other situations. In this section, we will also cover essential questions and understandings. Essential questions help to focus the training provided in our unit back onto the big idea. Essential questions are not meant to have right or wrong answers. They are intended to get learners to think deeper about the topics at hand and spark meaningful connections to prior learning. These questions should make learners weigh out all of the information that they are taking in and consider alternative ideas. Essential questions can be asked over and over, and they may result in different answers as learners obtain additional information. In this section, we will list our essential questions. These should not be simple factual questions, but they should facilitate transfer. Again, we want to list the standard or competencies that our questions apply to in the right-hand column. We will list the standards and competencies by the code from the Standards and Competencies section. Understandings is the next section of the UbD template. Understandings are the ultimate goal of our unit. We want people to have understandings of our topics. These understandings are created through transfer, meanings, knowledge, and skill. When a learner truly understands, they're able to state the concept or idea in their own words, and they're able to apply their knowledge to potentially unfamiliar situations. In this section, we will be listing what we want our students to understand. We'll use statements like students will understand that. And then we tie that back to our competency codes and standards and list that in the right-hand column. The next section of our template covers acquisition. Acquisition involves both knowledge and skills, but neither of these alone lead to those understandings. We have to be able to make meaning out of our knowledge and skills to be able to transfer what we have learned. In the knowledge section, this is where we will list what we want our students to know. When we have knowledge about a topic, we know the basic facts, definitions, and concepts of that topic. This can be thought of as declarative knowledge. In this section, we will list the basic facts and concepts that we need our learners to be able to grasp to understand our unit. Again, we will tie this back to the competencies and standards in the right-hand column. Moving on through our template, we move into the skills section. This is where we determine and list what we want our students to be skilled at. Skill is the ability to perform a specified task. This can be thought of as procedural knowledge. In this section, we list the skills that our learners will have as a result of our unit. What will our students be skilled at? List those items in this section, and then list the associated competency or standard in the right-hand column. This concludes the Stage 1 UbD template overview. Thank you for listening.